Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Good morning to Jim Turner, who was the first off the mark this morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and there he was, bang on time. Good morning to you. We've had a message from Twitch that's got nothing to do with anything at all, so I'll ignore that. Good morning to Jean-Michel over on Instagram, Frank Totzi over on Instagram as well, Ken Hatcher. Ken Hatcher summing up the feelings of us all. How warm was it last night? Ho, 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 ho. And bearing in mind, it's only May. Anybody disputing the notion of global warming really should have been in my bedroom last night. Not that that's an offer, but man alive, it was warm. Mercy Johnston is here as well. Good morning to you, Mercy. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Sober beginning to the day. Sober and somber beginning to the day. Unfortunately, my wife's mother passed away on Saturday, and we found her. Got a phone call from her next door neighbour, a concerned phone call. She was out in the garden, and yeah, she'd passed away peacefully in her sleep while taking in the sunshine. So yeah, so this one's ran, and it has. I mean, I was kind of planning to do this thing anyway. Morning Monologue today is kind of dedicated to her, I guess, because it is kind of about that. But it's about this industry as well. But it's kind of about that. And Dan saying, "Oh my God, it's horrible." Yeah, well, bearing in mind, I mean, after today's show, I've got to pack my bag, get on a hot train, get on a hot tube, get on a hot train, get on a plane, and go to Prague, where it's at least as hot as it is here. And then tomorrow I'm out in amongst the Bobcat machines, which is cool, but the weather won't be. It's, by the sound of it, it's going to be scorching. So I'm taking hats and sun cream and Lord alone knows what else. It's going to be an interesting couple of days, but I have to say, looking forward to it enormously. It's one of those highlights of the calendars. Trip to Debris and Bobcat, they are always innovating, always helpful, always hospitable. Looking forward to it enormously. Dan saying, "Oh my God, so sorry to hear. Condolences to Ruth and the rest of the family." Thank you, Dan. It's a strange one. I mean, she was 82 years old, 83 years old, and had been suffering with MS for about, blimey, 50 odd years. Held it at bay, held down a full-time job, retired as one is supposed to do, but slowly, surely it kind of caught up with her. Last few months, she's really, really struggled to get around. But stubbornly, which is kind of in her nature, stubbornly, she refused to leave the family home where she lost her husband just over a year ago. And she said, you know, when we offered to get her some, you know, put her into care or, you know, put her into a home where she'd have a bit more assistance, she swore blind. "Nope, I will leave here in a box," she said. And she did. She got her way, which, you know, I guess is a good thing. And Jim, so sorry to hear that. Condolences to Ruth, you and the family. God bless. Thank you very much indeed, Jim. Yeah, as I say, despite the illness and despite the age, still a bit of a shock, and actually discovering her, it's not the sort of thing you want to do. It really isn't. Wouldn't recommend it. If you can possibly avoid it, I would strongly suggest you do that. I missed Dan Cullen's good morning message as well. Good morning, Dan. We've got a packed show for you today. We're taking in, who are we taking in? We're taking in JCB, Komatsu, Sandvik Mining and Sunwards, among others. Plus we've got the morning monologue. So I hope you've got your ears switched on. Just a very quick reminder, because I won't be here tomorrow, I am desperately trying to get a video finished so that even though I won't be here, there will be a show tomorrow, and it will be all about training and the vagaries thereof. So if you are around tomorrow, usual time, the show will just begin. I won't be here to introduce it, but it will just run. It's about 40 minutes long, so it will keep you entertained and possibly get you angry as well. Andy Dovell says, "Sorry to hear that, mate. Condolences to you and yours." Thank you very much indeed, Andy. And good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for being here. So let us crack on, shall we? It is Tuesday, the 26th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. You know the rest. In today's show, taking a closer look at JCB's largest ever excavator. Komatsu dozers get the blues. You'll see. Sandvik Autonomy goes underground, and the Sunwards. The Sunwards, that's not a family, that's a bunch of excavators gathering in France. And in today's episode of Mark's Morning Monologue, it's called The Myth of Permanence. The Myth of Permanence. Sounds awfully philosophical, and it is a little bit, but I hope you'll enjoy that. But we've got loads to get through before we get to that. So let me do you a bit of Caterpillar, and then we'll do a bit of JCB. What was it, last week, or was it the week before? It was recent. I've been up to JCB, as you will know. The weather was against us. We managed to film the 715 ADT, and we asked for special permission to get that rolling around. But one of the machines, perhaps the most exciting of all the machines that JCB were launching on that day, was the 520X, the largest excavator they've ever made. But unfortunately, weather conditions didn't permit us to film it. But thankfully, the fine folks at JCB had no such problems. This is the JCB 520X. Quite the tool, right? I think Chris will maybe off to see that this week. Is it this week or is it next week, Chris? Let me know. Mark Whiting's here as well. Chris Ford has just arrived, saying morning all. Scotcho. Yes, Scotcho indeed. Jim Turner, I'm glad to be back at work and in the shade. Worked in the sun all day on Saturday, then Sunday and Monday at vintage rallies in the blazing sun. The shows were great, but that weather was unbearable. Hard to film stuff when it's so bright. I don't know what you're using for filming, Jim, but if you can get yourself an ND filter, that will help. It will certainly help. If you're using your phone, I think there are like screw-on lenses, and you can get a screw-on ND filter. That helps. Think sunglasses for your camera. That's kind of what an ND filter does. What do we got there? Dan saying a beast and a beauty. Yeah, beauty and the beast as well. That be a foot tool. I'm thinking good. I'm not too sure, but I'm thinking that means good. So yes, 520X. Read all about it. go and see one if you get the chance. Because go to Hillhead, even better still, because it will be there. It will be there. Go and place your orders. We're going to come back in a moment. We're feeling a little blue today. You'll see.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So, Komatsu dozers, we're all familiar with that. Big blade, big powerful engine, big powerful undercarriage, and that lovely yellow colour. Usually.
Our experience with the Komatsu D65 dozer first started with the Komatsu rentals business. We were impressed with the performance of the machine and wanted one within our fleet. This dozer is our fourth machine that's been painted Daracon blue in significance of our 40-year anniversary of being in business. It's a real head turner and certainly a talking point out on the site. So when it comes to procurement of a new dozer to replace some of our existing fleet, we put the tender to market. The Komatsu offering was competitive, and given our prior experience of the machine performance through the Komatsu rentals, it was a simple choice in the end for us to go with this Komatsu dozer. This D65 is in addition to the 24 other Komatsu machines we have within our fleet. We were comfortable buying this D65 from Komatsu due to the support of the local branch and more broadly the Sydney team. The work environment for this machine, we're going into our major projects business, working in the civil space within the Newcastle Hunter region. The Daracon and Komatsu partnership has been growing over a number of years now, where Komatsu are adding significant value to our business, which enables us to add value to our clients' business.
I had this back from Jim. We've got some breaking news for you in a second, but I'm going to do this from Jim first of all. I'm just an amateur on my phone, hardly an amateur with your subscriber count on the way up. When it was too bright, I held my straw hat over the phone to create enough shade. Adapt and overcome. Well said indeed. And thank you for that, Gary. Yeah, condolences to you and the family, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. Today, as I said at the outset, today's morning monologue are in tribute to my mother-in-law. We'll get to that. So, breaking news. I didn't see this coming. Did not see this coming. Hitachi Energy, a global leader in electrification, and Volvo Construction Equipment have signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on developing end-to-end approaches that support the deployment of zero-emission construction sites. The collaboration brings together electric construction equipment with clean power supply, energy management, and system integration capabilities to help address one of the construction industry's most pressing challenges, decarbonisation. Under the agreement, Volvo Construction Equipment and Hitachi Energy will work on a non-exclusive basis to assess potential technical and commercial concepts supporting zero-emission construction and manufacturing operations with a focus on system integration and site-level operational execution. The scope apparently includes work on business models, go-to-market approaches, and aftermarket and support considerations supported by both teams. So this is not Hitachi and Volvo joining forces. This is Hitachi Energy and Volvo Construction Equipment kind of getting their heads together to help solve the whole decarbonisation thing, which I think is a positive step. I'm a little surprised that they need to do it. If somebody were to ask me who is the global leader in electric construction equipment, I'd probably say Volvo already were. Not entirely sure what Hitachi Energy are bringing to the party, but Hitachi, as you know, major, multi-billion-pound global company. So yes, interesting times. Volvo and Hitachi coming together, and I'm actually up in Sweden in a week and a bit. Hope to find out more when I get there. Mercy Johnson, my condolences. Thank you very much indeed. Not sure. I'm only going to murder your name, but thank you for the message. Dan Cullen, wow, yeah, that is some news. Yeah, as I say, some bits of news you think, yeah, all right, I kind of saw that coming. Not that. Not that. Two major brands in the construction equipment field kind of coming together. We shall see how that pans out. We're going underground at the moment in a very high-tech way, so stick around.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I realise the whole notion of autonomous equipment is kind of controversial, threats to job security and that kind of thing. But if the autonomy can actually replace people in dangerous environments, not such a bad thing. And oh boy, are Sandvik ever grasping that. Take a look at this. This is underground mining as if Tron were doing it.
AutoMine Aura redefines what is possible in your mine. The world's most advanced automation platform, engineered for the two things that matter most, safety and productivity. So you can move more material, even in the most complex environments. And the transition, seamless.
We're currently using AutoMine Aura in real-life production cycles. It is currently digging multiple stopes in multiple areas and is a very productive unit.
Built to integrate with what you already have, enabling fast adoption and implementation. Powered by the industry's most advanced and productive navigation system. With 3D perception, AutoMine Aura, future-ready automation platform, delivers a new level of awareness underground.
We chose George Fisher as a collaboration partner for the AutoMine Aura platform, given they pushed AutoMine to the boundaries and they could really do a real-world test.
Eliminating blind spots, reducing interruptions, unlocking true operational visibility, even in the world's most challenging mines.
With AutoMine Aura, we've noticed a 70% increase in productivity. More material moved helps us make more money at the end of the day.
Test, adjust, and optimize in real time. Ensuring smooth commissioning and tons moved from day one. Designed for operators, refined by over 2 decades of real-world experience. A wider view, a familiar interface, reimagined for clarity and control. Operators adapt quickly and stay in control.
We have a history of really putting new technology through its paces here. In some really challenging conditions, and I think we delivered on that promise with Aura. And the results were really pleasing. It continued to evolve and get better throughout the trial.
Built on over 20 years of AutoMine experience, proven in the world's most demanding operations, delivering productivity, safety, and scalability. AutoMine Aura. Own the new dimension of mining.
Some sexy stuff, right? Some sexy stuff. Jim Turner just said, this YouTube channel crack must be contagious. The missus has now started on with soppy sheep videos. Well, Jim, obviously, you are good farming stock. My wife is not. And yet my wife, 7 days a week, watches, I think this is on Facebook, there's a farm up in Scotland. I think it's called Dowscombe Farm. I may have the name wrong, but there's basically a farm up there, father and son operation, and all the family members as well. They've got sheep, they've got goats, they've got cows and various other bits and pieces. And my wife, who has no connection whatsoever to anything farming related, will sit there and watch it for hours upon hours. I hate to say it, Jim, but I think you've got some competition. I reckon your wife with her soppy sheep videos could well overtake you, because it's a popular subject. Mick Norton has just joined us. Good morning indeed to you, Mick. Wonder what depth they were down. I had no idea. But some sexy tech, right? Yeah, as I say, looked like something out of a sci-fi movie from the 1980s. They even had the 1980s synthwave soundtrack to go with it, which I thought was great. We've got one final film for you before we get into our morning monologue. So Hellhead will soon be upon us. What is it now? It's a month away. So if you haven't booked your ticket already, do so. Get ready for it. You can go and see the 520X, among other things. Let me give you a very quick reminder of where you can find our sponsor for today's show, MB Crusher. I want answers on a postcard for this. You know, you have you spot a couple of crows together. That's a murder of crows. You have a shoal of fish and a flock of seagulls. If you know your 80s bands and their haircuts, what would you call a gathering? A gathering of Sunward excavators. Yeah. Think about it for the next minute, for the next minute and 20 seconds. What would you call a flock of Sunwards? Ken Hatcher, wash your mouth out with soap. What do you call a group of Sunwards? He says junk. Didn't I spot you on the Sunward stand at Plantworks not so long ago? Jim Turner saying a shine of Sunwards. I like that. I do like that. Dan Cullen saying that's Sunward. Did I say Sanny? In that case, I apologise. I apologise unreservedly. But we're sticking with a shine. Jim Turner also says she'll definitely overtake me if she can be bothered to stick at it. I think we need a small holding channel with our general day-to-day stuff and projects on it. Yeah, I think you do. I really do think you do. I don't watch them all the time, but every once in a while I'll stumble across one of those, particularly from the States. And just watch, partly for the equipment, just watch the the environment and stuff. Incidentally, this has got nothing to do with anything we ever discuss on here. I've discovered a guy. Like I went out and sought him out. That's not true. But I've discovered a guy on YouTube by the name of Jim Bannister. He's a young guy, probably mid-20s, I guess. And he just wanders about the place. He goes camping. But one of the videos, the one that attracted me was he was going to his girlfriend's house. And rather than take the train, he walked for 2 days. And he just walks along, and there's a bit of wildlife. There's a bit of countryside. And he is almost Attenborough-esque. Doesn't say much, not shouty, just very quietly enjoys the countryside and talks about seeing foxes and badgers and mice and stuff. Jim Bannister, honestly, really, really, really good. I'll make a prediction right here, right now. Somebody will give him his own TV show. It's, if anyone watches Gone Fishing, and I know quite a few of you do, you know how well, one thing, the fishing doesn't really have a great deal to do with it. It's just a couple of blokes. Well, this is just a bloke. And there's no challenge to it. There's no destination. There's no object to it. It's just, I'm going to go and stroll through the countryside. Come along for a chat. And he doesn't say a lot. His videos are like 30 minutes long, and he probably speaks for about 1 minute of that. Just really, really good. Look out for him. Jim Bannister. Ken Hatcher. So hopefully Sunwards weren't watching. Dan says there's a family in the States where their children drive tractors and run the farm. I'd tune in for that. And they buy their own tractors at 12, 14 years old. I'd watch that too. Anyway, people, I think that does. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show for today. I'm going to... what am I going to do? I want to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, and I will see you again soon. Not that soon. As I say, I'm leaving here today to go to Stansted Airport. I'm in Czech Republic tomorrow and on Thursday. Get back Thursday afternoon. So no show Wednesday, no show Thursday on... Let me do that again. There is no show Thursday. There is a show on Wednesday, i.e. tomorrow. I won't be here to present it, but it's all about operator training and the vagaries thereof. I hope you can tune in for that. It's about 40 minutes long, so almost the length of an average one of these shows. So tune in if you possibly can. I think you'll enjoy it. So yes, I'll be back on Friday, and I'll tell you all about Bobcat when I get here. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this. We like to believe in the enduring nature of things. In our line of work, we deal with concrete, steel and stone, materials engineered to withstand the elements and survive the decades. Yet over the course of just a few short weeks, I've been handed 3 distinct reminders that nothing lasts forever. Just over a week ago, the last of my boxer dogs passed away. For almost 14 years, she was a constant companion, an ever-present and welcome shadow, and a fixture of my daily routine. Then, on Saturday, my wife's mother passed away. While my wife is navigating her own grief, I'm struck by my own quiet realisation. That woman had been a fixture of my life for more than 40 years, and now she's gone. And to compound that run of loss, Sunday delivered a different kind of blow. While it belongs to a completely different category of grief, my beloved West Ham United were relegated from the Premiership to the Championship for the first time since 2012. Taken individually, these events are personal heartbreaks and disappointments. Taken collectively, however, they serve as a stark, timely reminder of a fundamental truth we so often try to ignore. Permanence is a myth. It's a myth that we repeat, believe and perpetuate every single day in the demolition and construction industry. We look at the businesses we trade with, the projects we deliver, and the people we work alongside, and we treat them as if they will always be there. But the reality is that the ground beneath our feet is shifting far faster than we care to admit. If you look back over the past few years, our industry has quietly undergone a massive erosion. We've said a final farewell to more than 8,000 companies in the UK demolition and construction sectors. Think about that number for a moment. 8,000 entities, brands, family businesses, and specialist contractors have simply vanished from the supply chain. Some of those companies were giants, others were the hyper-local subcontractors who kept regional projects moving. Many of them were fixtures of our professional lives. They were names you saw on site holdings, the firm you knew you could rely on for a difficult facade retention, or the plant hire companies that always found you a machine at short notice. Now, they too are gone. Behind every one of those 8,000 corporate failures or closures are the people. Lord alone knows how many professionals, tradespeople and labourers we've lost over the same period. They haven't just left the site. Some have left the sector entirely. Some have walked away out of sheer disenchantment. Others have reached the natural end of their careers and taken a well-deserved retirement, taking decades of irreplaceable knowledge with them. Far too many have been forced out by life-altering injuries, and sadly, some have passed away too. When a fixture in your professional life disappears, it alters the dynamic of how you do business. We're left scrambling to replace the irreplaceable, realizing too late that we took their presence for granted. As demolition and construction professionals, we are uniquely complicit in maintaining this illusion of permanence. We greet new equipment as a valuable investment, but in 4 or 5 years' time, it'll be moved on. When a new commercial tower rises or a major infrastructure project is completed, the media celebrates it as a permanent addition to the skyline. But for those of us in this sector, we know the truth. We know that every building comes with an expiry date, whether that date is dictated by structural fatigue, obsolescence, or urban regeneration. The skyline is not an unyielding monument. It's just a temporary arrangement of materials waiting for the next economic cycle. The same applies to our corporate partners and site teams. We look at a familiar subcontractor or a veteran site agent and assume they will always be there. In reality, the subcontractor is often managing fragile margins vulnerable to macroeconomic shocks, and the veteran site agent is a finite resource subject to age, health, burnout, and time. Typically, our industry responds to this continuous loss by ignoring it until we're forced to confront it. We treat the collapse of a long-standing competitor or the retirement of a brilliant operator as isolated incidents rather than symptoms of a wider, unstoppable tide of change. But acknowledging this lack of permanence isn't about being pessimistic. It's about being realistic. When we accept that our companies, our colleagues, and our projects are temporary, it should change the way we manage them today. It should force us to look more seriously at succession planning, ensuring that decades of specialist knowledge don't just walk out the door into retirement without being captured. It should remind us to protect our people from the kind of disenchantment and burnout that quietly drains talent from our sector. And it should highlight the need for genuine financial resilience, because operating on razor-thin margins leaves zero room for error when the unexpected happens. The loss of a loyal companion, a matriarch, or even the top flight status of a football club hits hard because it forces us to reset our expectations. It reminds us that the status quo is a fragile thing. In the construction and demolition world, we live with the impermanence without losing our drive to build. The fact that a machine, a structure, a business, or a career will not last forever, doesn't diminish its value. The 8,000 companies we've lost should serve as a wake-up call. The colleagues who are no longer on site alongside us should remind us to value the teams we currently have, because tomorrow will not look exactly like today. And once we accept the myth of permanence for what it is, maybe we can focus on building something more resilient and more meaningful with the time that we do have. Because ultimately, nothing lasts forever. There you are. Yes, I up until that point, I hadn't mentioned West Ham, but yes, we're back in the Championship. Sad but true. Sad but true. What have we got here? Chris Ford, the Hammers versus the Sheepshaggers the Sheepshaggers next season. There's going to be some banter. Yes, there is. Listen, this is not the worst bit. This is not the worst bit. Having been down in the Championship before on a number of occasions, the worst bit is the fallout. The players that we've cheered on this season, and we've treated them as they're one of us. They wear the badge with pride, but now they're going to be on potentially lower wages, maybe not making it into the England team, although very few of them do anyway. It was going to be there's going to be an exodus, and those players that we've not me personally, but you've grown to love them. Young kids have got their names on their shirts, on their back, and they'll be off down the road without a second thought. So it was a sad day, and it was inevitable. It didn't go down to the wire. We hadn't been good enough for 2/3 of the season. We had a bit of a run towards the end. We managed to scrape a 3-0 win over Leeds on Sunday, but it wasn't enough to keep us up. So now we just watch and wait, see what happens next. Chris Ford says it feels like a Barstool day. Is that a Barstool day today? The best seat in the house, if only I had the time. You know, it's quite funny. As you know, I don't drink, but there's a bit of me that thinks if we get to Prague in time, there might be a beer in line. That's a great channel, Dan. And there's Laura Farms in America or Canada, Zara Farms in Australia. Both great channels. I want to look those up. Jim Turner says, big government doesn't want people dealing with people. They want big companies emailing each other or signing contracts. It makes their job of squeezing tax out of everything so much easier. Started after World War II and got worse on a daily basis. It's not progress. It's progressive stagnation. Sad, really. Yeah. I think part of it is because of the general mood around around Shay Anthony at the moment. Obviously, loss of dog, loss of mother-in-law, the West Ham situation. Does feel a bit bleak out there at the moment. Does feel a bit bleak. And listen, I'm not going to. You don't come here to listen to me moaning and whining. But 3 years ago, my wife had both her parents. I had both of mine, and we had 2 fine, aging but fine boxer dogs. Here we are, 26th of May. All gone. Both sets of parents, both dogs gone. Sad old state of affairs. Very good and very true. Fantastic monologue. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. If you fancy reading it back, you'll be able to do so fairly soon. It's going to drop over on Demolition Cider around about 11 o'clock. Even on the jobs front, it's not great either. No, listen, I have been enjoying. Enjoying is probably the wrong word. I spend quite a bit of my spare time on Substack, mainly trying to get to grips with American politics, which I do find endlessly fascinating. But I've had to take myself away. This is not my mental health. It's none of that. It's not that kind of nonsense. It is that I just find the whole world a little bit depressing at the moment. Not even a little bit, a lot depressing. And I don't mean I need to go on happy pills or take myself away to a retreat or anything like that. I just, when you're watching the way that the world is playing out in Gaza and in Ukraine and in America and here, I literally on Sunday afternoon, I put my laptop on just to finish a few things for today. I'll have a quick look at Substack, and about 5 minutes later I just went, do you know what, I can't even be bothered with this. And one of the things that I find so frustrating, and this does have echoes within this industry, you look at the way Donald Trump has basically run roughshod over all the rules and regulations and constitutions and amendments and everything else. There are rules and regulations. He's just decided, bollocks, I'm not going to follow them. I'm just going to do what I like. At the point where the guardrails no longer mean anything, then nothing means anything. I'm a president of peace. I'm no more forever wars. And yet he's bombed half a dozen countries. He's bombing the crap out of Iran. And I just look at it and listen, as I say, it has echoes and parallels in this industry. We have rules and regulations on health and safety. A lot of times they're ignored. People get injured, people get maimed, people die. We have rules and regulations about corruption and collusion. The majority, I think, like to, stay within the guidelines. They might bump up against the guidelines from time to time, but by and large, they stay on the right side of them. But when people do go over the line, nothing really happens. Bit of a slap on the wrist, and that's the worst that happens. And I can't. My wife My wife said in the aftermath of losing her mother that she just feels a bit lost. And I remember that feeling myself when I lost both my parents. Not that I really called upon it, but I always had them as a bit of a safety net. Not financially or emotionally, but whatever came up in my life, there was always my mum or my dad at the end of a telephone line. Mum, Dad, this has happened. And you know, we chatted out. Sometimes there was bugger all they could do about it, but just sometimes hearing their voice was enough. I've lost that. My wife has now lost that, and she said she feels lost. And I've got to be honest, when I look at the state of the demolition and construction industry at the moment, that's kind of how I feel. We have rules and regulations that are broken far too often. We know the fact that this is a cyclical industry and that companies will fail, and nobody's doing anything about it. I've looked back at some of these morning monologues, and by and large, if you were to read them, you know, if you were to suddenly decide to binge watch or binge read these morning monologues, you would swear blind that I hate this industry, because so much of what I write is negative. And I can assure you, it's not out of choice. I'd love nothing more than to come on here with, you know, endless good news. You know, full employment in the industry, the training regime sorted out, no accidents, no fatalities, no companies going out of business, collusion pushed to the very, very margins. I'd love to report on all of those things, but I can't, because that's not the reality. And I think, you know, here we are, 6 and a bit years in, 1,142 shows in. It does occasionally feel like I'm shouting into the wind, or pissing into the wind, as my dad would have it. You know, you can see from this position, from your position, all the things that are wrong, that are unjust, that are unfair, that are unsafe. And it doesn't matter how much you shout about it, doesn't matter how much you moan about it, doesn't matter how much you discuss it, it carries on. It's hard. It's hard. Good morning to Cross Country Manufacturing. I don't know you, but you're welcome. And I love your logo, by the way. Dan Cullen saying, in this industry, it's all doom and gloom at the moment. It does feel like it. Yeah, it really does. You know, even when you look at, you know, Construction Index, or what's the other one? Construction Inquirer. There's, you know, you might have somebody winning a major project award, and you think, oh, you know, they're up to the tune of half a billion quid. Fantastic, good news. But then after that, it's bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news. Just a sorry old state of affairs. 130. Hang on a minute. 130-year-old brick company gone bust, along with numerous shops. 130 years of manufacturing bricks. And it's not like we don't need bricks. It's not like they've been replaced or usurped as a key building material. Just can't make ends meet, I guess. I wonder how much of that is down to fuel and energy costs. Probably wouldn't have helped. Dan Cullen saying he is Israel's puppy. He is. And unfortunately, half of his own nation are his puppy. The whole Iran thing is pathetic. We deal with a government that openly hates the West, so we should have starved them out when they came into power. The West doesn't need to bomb these countries. We should just freeze them out of the world. Yeah. Freeze them out. Fine. If you hate us, that's it. We're done. We're cutting ties. You're on your own. Never, you know, you're not going to be watching episodes of Friends, because we're not going to sell them to you. We're not going to sell you fuel or food or anything like that. You're on your own. That's fine. But bombing, because when you think about it, and I don't want to go down political lines, although, you know, I do have a channel for that. I don't want to go down political lines, but when you think about how little our government has to do with our daily life. Yes, they set rules on the budget, the tax, rules and regulations. But by and large, they operate in a bubble. We have to pay the consequences of what they decide and what they don't decide. But by and large, they don't have a great deal of impact. Keir Starmer could make a speech today. It might be front page news. It might hog the entirety of tonight's evening news. It'll make no difference to me. I'll go about my daily life exactly the same as I always have. But the day that you start invading and bombing and putting armed forces personnel into harm's way, that's real. That's real. And bearing in mind, it was Memorial Day in America yesterday, where they celebrate their fallen soldiers and Navy personnel and Air Force personnel from wars throughout the last couple of hundred years. And in the midst of that, they are still continuing attacking a sovereign nation. A deeply unpleasant, untrustworthy, fairly horrible country. But the people that are paying the price for that are the American military, who have no choice. They are merely responding to the orders of their commander-in-chief. Exactly the same on the Iranian side, and men, women and children on the ground. (2026). We've fought years for centuries, fought wars for centuries, and we still have never learned the lesson. I've said it on this show before, and I'll say it again. If a president or a prime minister or a monarch wants to go to war, it's the citizens of that nation should say, absolutely, 100%. Here you go, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, your kingship. Here's a gun. You first. We'll be right behind you. How keen are you now? But we don't. Donald Trump can order a missile strike on Iran and go and play golf, knowing that he and his family are safe thousands of miles away, completely out of harm's way. He gets a good soundbite on the evening news, and American servicemen and women lose their lives. Think about that from the point of view of the families. As I said during the morning monologue, I've seen loss and grief up close far too much over the past 2 or 3 years. In the case of both of my parents, in the case of both my wife's parents, in the case of both of our dogs, they were unavoidable. They'd had a good life and everything else. But imagine you're married to a 25-year-old man or woman who are in the armed forces in America, and they're going off to fight in Iran, leaving behind you and maybe a child or two. And you kiss them on both cheeks and you hope and pray that they'll come back, and they may not. Exactly the same as this industry. Up and down the country today, there will be 2.5 to 3 million people that have left home to go to work in construction or in demolition. Not all of them on site, but a lot of them will be on site. Building roads, building houses, building tower blocks. There's every possibility that not all of those will go home this evening to their wives or their husbands or their children. Permanence, I'm afraid, as I said in the morning monologue, permanence is a myth. I know it's a myth that we love to believe, but it's a myth nonetheless. Dan says it's madness. Greed is a big factor in a lot of issues. Yeah, it is. And when you think about it, why is America all over Iran? Is it because of differing religious ideologies? Is it bollocks? It's about oil and energy and power. Why are corners cut on demolition construction sites? Is it because of ignorance? No. It's because it's cheaper. It saves a few quid. That's all it is. It's greed. I bet there will be many suffering from heat exhaustion and dust. Is unbelievable. Yeah. Well, again, I mean, we kind of preempted this with our giveaways of those various air up bottles, which I think everybody should now have. But yeah, if I were to leave you with one message, because I do need to go and pack my bag right now, leave you with one message. You know when you've had a lot of water and you can kind of feel it sloshing around inside you, have a bit more. It is really warm out there, people. Not only are you losing water through sweat, you're losing a lot of sort of vital minerals as well. So fill up your water bottle. Fill up 2 if you possibly can. Little and often sips, as the recommendation goes. Make sure you stay hydrated. I am going to Prague wearing a hat. I've got a thing to go around my neck because I don't like to get the sun on the back of my neck. I'm taking no chances whatsoever, and I would strongly recommend that you don't take chances either. Have a safe journey. Thank you very much, and stay safe. Yes, thank you very much indeed, Dan. I will be back on Friday with news from the world of Bobcat. Until, well, as I say, there will be a show tomorrow. I won't be there, but there will be a show. And Jim Turner philosophically says wars cost lives but make money. Lives are free. And what does that tell you about the human condition? You know, it's sometimes in a fit of pique, I suggest that people in this industry are seen as expendable. We know the dangers of working at height, but we insist that people do it anyway. Ultimately, people are expendable. I like not to say that. I like to believe that there are people in this industry that believe completely different to that. When you look at the armed forces, you sign up and you basically you cede control of your life to somebody in the White House who may or may not be entirely deranged. On that cheerful note, I would go and pack my bag. I will see you on Friday. The show will see you tomorrow, hopefully. Until then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. Look after yourselves in the sunshine. Stay hydrated. See you soon.